Kapow.
While it's well known that Jesus was accompanied by 12 disciples, 12 male disciples, it is often overlooked that Jesus also had a large group of women who supported his ministry. Few are mentioned by name, and in fact there is only one woman who is named in all 4 of the Gospels: Mary Magdalene. Mary is commonly dismissed as a prostitute. A reformed prostitute, but of little significance. However, according to Scripture, this is completely inaccurate. What Scripture does tell us is that Mary was at one time possessed by not 1, not 2, but 7 demons. During that time, she assuredly lived a wretched existence, full of agony and terror. That is, until her demons encountered Jesus. And suddenly, there was peace. To say Mary was grateful would be insufficient. Mary immediately became one of Jesus' followers, a fairly anonymous follower, but a follower nonetheless. It is quite possible that Mary was very self-conscious about her prior demon possession and struggled with anxiety over what the others thought of her. Ironically, it may very well have been her fear of their judgment that was keeping the memory of the demons alive. Mary's angst might have one day driven her away entirely, had Jesus not continually reached out to her. However, Mary did not let Jesus' actions encourage her. She could only assume that he merely felt sorry for her. She knew her place amongst the other more worthy disciples. Though as she continued to observe Jesus, she noted that he was reliably compassionate with nearly everyone they encountered. Mary couldn't help but be inspired by Jesus' outpouring of compassion, and was even slowly beginning to allow herself to believe that he might genuinely accept her, which made it all the more devastating for Mary when Jesus was arrested, brutally beaten, mocked, and crucified. And yet, while most of the other disciples hid cowering in fear, Mary was at the foot of the cross. Mary wished that she could take away his suffering, just as he had taken hers. After the Sabbath, Mary and 2 other women went to Jesus' tomb to anoint his body, though none of them had had the foresight to figure out how exactly they would roll away the massive rock that covered the tomb's entrance. As it worked out, it made no difference. Not only was the stone already rolled away, Jesus wasn't even there. Instead, there was an angel who explained that Jesus was risen and that they should go tell the disciples. Mary ran to tell the others. She ran and ran and ran. However, when she told the disciples, they dismissed her news. In an instant, Mary felt all of her insecurities flooding back. Of course they didn't listen. Why should they believe someone like her? But then it struck her. This wasn't about her. This was about Jesus. They had to listen to her. Finally, at Mary's insistence, Peter and another disciple decided to look into it. Upon finding the tomb empty, the two disciples were baffled as to what this could possibly mean. A wave of doubt washed over her. Had she imagined it? No. She knew in her heart that something had happened, and she had to get to the bottom of it. Jesus was still absent. However, there were now two angels in the tomb. Mary wondered how Peter could have possibly missed this.
Woman, why are you crying?
Someone has taken Jesus' body and I don't know where. Where? Excuse me.
As radiant and beautiful as they were, Mary was beginning to feel overwhelmed. Having seen 3 angels in a single day, she decided to leave. Only to find she was being stalked by a random gardener. Suddenly, it dawned on her. Here was her culprit. It was the gardener. He must have moved Jesus.
Where is Jesus? Where have you taken him?
Or so she thought, until he said, Mary.
Rabbi, teacher!
Mary ran to embrace him. But Jesus explained that she mustn't hold on to him, for he had not yet ascended to the Father. Mary wasn't certain what he was talking about, but it didn't matter. All that mattered was that he was alive. Jesus told her to go and tell his brothers that he was ascending to his Father and their Father, to his God and their God. Mary told the disciples that she had seen the Lord, but once again, they did not believe her. In that moment, it became clear that she had been right about some of the disciples. They did indeed think very little of her. Yet, she was pleased to realize that she wasn't bothered by this in the slightest. Jesus had entrusted her with this news, her and no other. She now knew without a doubt that Jesus loved and accepted her as she was. And that was all that mattered. That Jesus first appeared to Mary and charged her with spreading the good news was indeed a powerful act. And it is now widely understood that Mary Magdalene went on to become a prominent leader in the early Christian church. No wonder centuries later, some Christians were still calling her Apostle to the Apostles, the first apostle.